Imagine you were at the very end of your life. You're resting in a comfortable chair, eyes closed, listening to the final, quiet ticking of the clock. Suddenly, there's a knock at the door. A stranger walks in. In his hands, he carries a heavy, leather-bound book. Your name is embossed in gold on the cover. "What is that?" you ask, your voice frail. The stranger places it on your lap. "This," he replies, "is the biography of the person you could have been. It contains every dream you hesitated to chase, every word of love you swallowed, every risk you backed away from, and the magnificent life that was waiting for you on the other side of your fear." He opens the book. The pages are filled with breathtaking pictures of a life of deep purpose, wild joy, and profound impact. You look at it, and a single, crushing thought enters your mind. I traded all of this for comfort. If hearing that sent a cold shiver down your spine, hold on to it, because what you are about to hear is the story of how to burn that book before it is ever written. Arthur Pendleton was a man composed entirely of gray. He wore gray suits, lived in a gray apartment, and lived a life so predictably gray that even the neighborhood's stray cats didn't bother to look up when he walked past. Arthur was a clock repairman. For 30 years, he sat behind the dusty window of a shop in London, fixing the springs and gears of other people's timepieces. He spent his days making sure other people were never late for their lives, while completely stalling his own. But Arthur had a secret. Beneath the floorboards of his tiny apartment were a mahogany box. Inside that box were dozens of blueprints sketched in meticulous detail. They were designs for original clocks, magnificent, gravity-defying, astronomical clocks that didn't just tell the time, but mapped the stars, tracked the tides, and played symphonies with tiny brass bells. His masterpiece was a sketch he called the Starlight Chronometer. Every evening, Arthur would take out the blueprints, trace the lines with his calloused fingers, and dream. And every morning, he would lock them away, whispering his daily mantra: "Someday, when I have more money, when I am more skilled, when the time is right." Someday was Arthur's favorite word. It was a comfortable blanket that kept him warm while he slept through his own life. One Tuesday evening in November, a thick fog rolled through the city. Arthur, walking home with his head down as usual, took a wrong turn down a narrow cobblestone alley he had never seen before. At the end of the alley stood a building made of dark stone, illuminated by a single flickering gas lamp. Above the heavy oak door was a bronze plaque that read, "The Gallery of Someday." Driven by an uncharacteristic spark of curiosity, Arthur pushed the door open. The interior was vast, a grand museum with marble floors and vaulted ceilings, but it was silent, dead silent. There was no ticking here. "Welcome, Arthur," a voice echoed. From the shadows stepped an elderly man. He wore a crisp, tailored suit, but his eyes held an ancient, heavy sadness. He was the curator. "Where am I?" Arthur asked, his heart hammering against his ribs. "How do you know my name?" "I know everyone who comes here," the curator said gently, "though very few find the door while they still have a pulse. Follow me." Arthur followed the curator down a long corridor lined with glass display cases. In one, there was a beautiful, unwritten manuscript. In another, a pair of worn dancing shoes. In a third, a glowing, ethereal image of a man and a woman laughing on a porch, holding hands. "What are these?" Arthur whispered. "These," the curator replied, "are the ghosts of unlived intentions. This museum holds everything humanity created in their minds, but never brought into the world. It is the graveyard of 'I'll do it tomorrow.'" Arthur stopped walking. The air in the gallery suddenly felt very thin. The curator paused before a massive set of double doors. "I brought you here to show you your exhibit, Arthur." He pushed the doors open. Arthur stepped into the room and gasped. The room was filled with light, sound, and motion. Everywhere he looked, there were clocks, but they weren't the broken, mundane pocket watches he fixed every day. They were his clocks. To his left was the tide tracker, its gears shifting like ocean waves. Above him hung the solar pendulum, casting warm golden light across the room. And there, in the very center, on a pedestal of polished obsidian, stood the starlight chronometer. It was more beautiful than his wildest dreams. It ticked with a heartbeat rhythm, and tiny diamond constellations rotated perfectly around its face. Standing around the clocks were holographic projections of people, smiling, pointing, in awe of the craftsmanship. Among them stood a projection of an older Arthur, but this Arthur wasn't gray. He stood tall, a proud smile on his face, wearing a coat of deep, vibrant blue. He looked alive. Arthur fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. The beauty of the room was overwhelming, but the agony of it was entirely unbearable. "It's beautiful," Arthur sobbed, reaching a hand out toward the clock. His fingers passed right through it, grasping only cold air. "Why are you showing me this? Why torture me?" The curator knelt beside him. "It is not torture, Arthur. It is a mirror. You have spent your entire life worshiping at the altar of perfection and safety. You convinced yourself that if you never tried to build them, you could never fail. You kept your genius locked in a box to protect your ego. And let me tell you a secret of the universe, Arthur. The pain of trying is a sharp scrape on the knee. It heals. But the pain of regret is a slow-acting poison. It rots the soul from the inside out." Arthur looked at his hands. Hands that had spent 30 years fixing other people's dreams. "Is it too late? Am I dead?" "You are not dead," the curator said, "but your someday is. Someday is a fantasy. There is only today. There is only right now." The curator reached into his pocket and pulled out a single, rough, uncut piece of brass. He placed it into Arthur's hand. "You cannot leave with the finished clock. You have to build it yourself. Go home, Arthur. Break things, fail, make a mess. But for the love of life, build." Arthur gasped, his eyes snapped open. He was sitting at his workbench in his gray apartment. The morning sun was trying to peek through the dirty window. The fog had lifted. He looked down at his hand. Resting in his palm was a rough, uncut piece of brass. Arthur didn't go to work that day. For the first time in 30 years, he left the shop closed. He went to the hardware store. He spent his life savings on the finest gears, the sharpest tools, and the brightest brass he could find. He returned to his apartment, took a crowbar and pried up the floorboards. He pulled out the mahogany box. He didn't just look at the blueprints this time. He pinned them to the wall. And then Arthur began to work. He made terrible mistakes. He shattered expensive glass. He bent delicate gears. He cursed, he bled, and he cried, but he didn't stop. The gray in his life began to fracture, replaced by the brilliant gold of brass, the rich red of his own blood, and the vibrant blue of a coat he bought for himself. It took him 2 years, but on a crisp spring morning, the starlight chronometer was finished. He placed it in the window of his shop. He didn't sell it, he just let it run. Crowds gathered, children pointed at the tiny constellations moving in perfect harmony. Arthur stood in the doorway, wearing his blue coat, watching the awe on their faces. He wasn't famous, he wasn't a millionaire, but as he listened to the ticking of his own masterpiece, Arthur realized something profound. He was finally, truly, gloriously alive. Right now, as you listen to my voice, you are Arthur. We all are. We all have a mahogany box hidden beneath the floorboards of our minds. Inside are the blueprints of the life we actually want. Maybe your starlight chronometer is a business you want to start. Maybe it's a book you want to write. Maybe it's an apology you need to give, a toxic relationship you need to leave, or a physical transformation you've been putting off for years. What is your someday? Someday I'll get in shape. Someday I'll tell them how I feel. Someday I'll quit this job and travel. I need you to hear this loud and clear. Someday is a disease. It is a lie we tell ourselves to soothe the anxiety of the present moment. It is the anesthetic that numbs you while your life slips away, second by ticking second. The gallery of someday is real. It is a place in your mind, and if you are not careful, it will be the only place your dreams ever exist. There is no perfect time. You will never be completely ready. You will never have enough money, enough experience, or enough confidence. The conditions will never be flawless. If you wait for the green lights to all turn on at once before you leave your driveway, you will never leave your house. You are going to fail. You are going to make a mess. You are going to look foolish sometimes. Embrace it. The cemetery is full of people who played it safe. Do not join them with your music still inside you. Today is the day you take out the blueprints. Today is the day you buy the brass. Close your eyes right now. Imagine that heavy leather-bound book from the beginning of this story, the book of the life you could have lived. Now, imagine taking a match to it. Watch it burn. You don't need a book of could-have-beens because you are going to write the real thing starting today. Get up, break things, make a mess. Your time isn't up, it's just unwritten. Now go build your masterpiece.